Thank you, Charlie. I too want to say welcome to St. Louis and to College of Chapters 2013. Kind of glad to draw the leadoff spot tonight in the lineup. Kind of makes me feel like I get to give the pregame talk before we get into the battle of College of Chapters. I want you to know that College of Chapters is my very favorite event that we do or involved in on the High Council. You know, we congregate, we legislate, we celebrate at Grand Chapter. But here we roll up our sleeves and we tackle the task before us, and that is the task of achieving chapter excellence. It is this event that we're going to roll up our sleeves and get after it. I've chosen to title my remarks tonight, Iron Sharpens Iron. Many of you that are men of faith will recognize this as a biblical phrase, and I think that makes it very appropriate because I believe our founders, Hopkins, Quarles, and Riley, tackled this very issue of wanting to establish an excellent brotherhood that was founded with the cornerstone of honor. Many of you that are athletes will be familiar with the phrase iron sharpens iron because you've been challenged to bring your A game every time you take the field or the court. And I'm going to challenge you tonight to bring your A game to College of Chapters. Brothers, and hopefully soon to be brothers that are part of our colonies, you're charged with the leadership of our most valuable asset in Sigma Nu, our collegiate chapters. College of Chapters is designed totally for you. We're single-minded and single-focused when it comes to College of Chapters. We are solely about the business of you, our collegiate commanders, preparing and pursuing excellence in your chapter. The curriculum that you're going to experience for College of Chapters is designed with only that in mind. I got to warn you right now, you may not leave here having said you had a fun time. But I promise you, if you take ownership of everything that we're about here, and you take ownership of your job here, and you bring your A game, and you fulfill your responsibility that your chapter placed on your shoulders, and you seek out others that have been successful, then iron will sharpen iron in the form of you participating in College of Chapters. On a personal level, I want you to know a little bit about me and know where I'm coming from on this topic because I am very passionate about the topic of mission of achieving chapter excellence. You know, I often get asked by my friends, sometimes by my family and my colleagues, Joe, why do you do Sigma Nu like you do? And here's why. I count myself as a very blessed and fortunate man for a number of reasons, but for a big reason is that because the Rush chairman at Epsilon chapter at Oklahoma State University in 1974 gave me a bid and gave me an opportunity that would change my life. The minute I stepped into the doors of the Sigma Nu House at Oklahoma State University, I stepped into a culture of excellence. I was surrounded by the best of the best. It was the expectation of the chapter, the alumni, and even the parents of the guys in the house that only excellence is accepted. It was expected that I would be the best. It was expected that we would be the best. And if excellence wasn't attained, then changes were made, and we were asked to raise the bar even higher. That chapter culture of excellence and accountability has proven to be the cornerstone of my approach to everything that I do in Sigma Nu. So after my 4 collegiate years in the chapter, I was asked to serve on the staff of the National Fraternity. And I did so, taking my experience from the Epsilon chapter on the road to the chapters all the way from North Dakota down to Louisiana and everything in between. It was then that I realized that campuses may be different, but successful chapters have many similar characteristics. After my stint on the staff, I headed to law school. I finished law school at the University of Tulsa in 1982 and began practicing law in Tulsa. My mentor in Sigma Nu is a brother named Tom Mason, who is now a retired attorney in his mid-80s and who served as our chapter advisor for all the time that I was there and for probably 30 years thereafter. Tom accepted only excellence, and for years and years and years held our chapter to the highest honorable standards because he lived his life pursuant to those standards, both personally and professionally. And as a lawyer and as a father and as a brother in Sigma Nu, I looked up and continue to look up to him for guidance and mentorship that has meant a tremendous amount in my life. It is the perfect example of extending the helping hand. So much of my passion for Sigma Nu and chapter excellence comes from my commitment to that one individual. Tom urged me to get involved in an advisory role in the chapter, in the mid-1980s. So from that time until really 2007, that's all I've known, that's all I've done, and I've lived and breathed in a chapter culture of excellence. So for 20 years, I had the privilege of working to sustain a culture of excellence that I had been raised in. In 1997, we established one of the first advisory boards that functions under our current model, and working alongside my buddy and co-advisor Neil Gilpin, who's here as a part of Task Force Hopkins, we would meet monthly to determine with the chapter officers the course of maintaining and sustaining chapter excellence that had been in place literally since 1920. To serve alongside a great group and a core of volunteer alumni for this length of time, I consider one of those real blessings to have an opportunity to rub shoulders and work side by side with dedicated alumni brothers from a chapter that has sustained excellence, and to work alongside chapter officers that were just bar none top notch. And that culture of excellence was such that I formulated a lot of who I am and what I am on the High Council from being privileged to serve in a culture that has produced 7 Rock Chapter Awards. A turning point in my involvement on the national level came in the College of Chapters, an event in 2007 that we held in Lexington, Virginia. A few of us in this room spent several hours discussing our individual goals for Sigma Nu and our dreams, and whether we might be interested in one day serving in a leadership role at the National Fraternity. It became real apparent to each of us in that conversation that we all wanted the same thing. We wanted more than anything else for our chapters to be the best, and in being the best, we will produce outstanding ethical leaders with a strong sense of loyalty to Sigma Nu because of a collegiate Sigma Nu experience that changed their lives for the better. For me, that one discussion in the summer of 2007 was the catalyst for my willingness and desire to move from serving as an advisory board chairman for 15 years to working on the High Council of Sigma Nu for the past now 3 bienniums. It was because the collective vision of guys that I wanted to serve with was just like mine. It's always been my deal, and that's chapter strength. As a High Council, we have placed our number one priority and committed our time and dollars and budgeted for you to be the best you can be. Our number one mission is having excellent chapters that develop ethical leaders. My philosophy in Sigma Nu is really very simple. Sigma Nu is only as strong as our chapters are strong. We can only be excellent when our chapters are excellent. You know, we have always hoped that our chapters would be good. But the difference now is that we expect it. And that is where accountability comes in. We measure your chapter through the Pursuit of Excellence programs. We celebrate your accomplishments and we address your deficiencies, not for the purpose of closing struggling chapters, but to develop action plans to identify and encourage, assist, and expect progress toward excellence. And this system of accountability is working. The statistics will show you that the average pursuit of excellence score increased by 23% over the last year. Our average chapter size has grown from 52 to 59 in the last biennium. And we have not had to close large numbers of chapters to accomplish that, nor do we want to. Now, here's where you come into the equation. As a lawyer by profession, I am paid to formulate my best case. And I can stand here today and make a very compelling case that the most important leaders in the room for the successful implementation of our strategic mission of attaining chapter excellence is not the High Council. It's not the Education Foundation. And it's not the executive staff led by Brad Beecham. It's you, the chapter commanders leading our most valuable asset in Sigma Nu, our undergraduate chapters. For you see, 95% of our Sigma Nu brothers will never experience Sigma Nu on a national level like we are here tonight, or at Grand Chapter, or at a regional Sigma Nu institute. The experience of excellence of 95% of our brothers is accomplished at the chapter level. So if we're to go fulfill our collective mission of the foundation, of the fraternity, of all that we're about in Sigma Nu, we must direct our focus to accomplishing that mission through a comprehensive fulfillment of our number one strategic imperative, and that's in our chapters. We are beginning a new year, and with that often comes resolutions and hopes to do better. But on January 3rd, 2013, at College of Chapters in St. Louis, Missouri, it's more than that. We are no longer about hopes. We are about expectations. My motto is expect excellence. I want to share with you some challenges, and I hope you will take these challenges in the spirit in which I offer them, the spirit of fraternal regard and a genuine desire that your chapter achieve greater excellence. I'm going to tell you that you may not agree with some of my statements or assessments, and that's fine. My desire tonight is to start you thinking about where your chapter is, where you're heading, and what you can accomplish. My task of getting us on first base tonight so that you're starting to understand the task of College of Chapters. I first challenge you to understand your leadership style and your skill set. As an advisor, I worked with 20 commanders and none were alike, but I do have some advice. As commander, you are probably not the most popular brother in the chapter. If you worry about that, then you ran for the wrong office. You should have run for social chairman. How are you dealing with adversity? Are you a kick butt and take names guy? Or are you, let me see what my brothers want to do and we'll vote on that kind of guy? There are obvious potential problems with both of these extreme styles of leadership. Where do you fall in this spectrum? If you don't already know, you're already behind. You will experience adversity. Are you prepared to lead at that time? Challenge your officer team and committees to take ownership of their respective jobs and then hold them accountable for their performance of those jobs. Brothers, this is a major distinguishing factor between mediocre chapters and excellent chapters. When officers take true ownership of their jobs and buy into making the chapter better by doing that particular job better than it's ever been done before, that's when best practices arise. And as an advisor, I want to give you a success story in that regard. And when you've got a chapter advisor for 20 years, you're going to get some more stories, so just bear with me. I'm thinking about a young officer that said little but demanded tremendous respect. We know all of our guys pretty well in the chapter, and it had taken that is a serious responsibility that we know who we're dealing with. Probably know more about them than they ever wanted us to know. But this young man was highly respected in the chapter, and he was an all-state soccer player, was the captain of the soccer team at his high school that had won multiple state championships. So I knew he had respect and experience, excellence, but outside of Sigma Nu. But I really hadn't dealt with him much. And he came to me and said, "Joe, I've been elected to the office of marshal." And I said, "That's awesome, Patrick." I said, I look forward to working with you. And he said, "No, you don't understand. I have a plan." And I said, "Well, let me hear your plan." And I thought, this is coming from a guy that has said little, but obviously has tremendous respect of the brothers, because he was elected at a young age to an important position. And I said, "Well, let me hear what your plan is." And he laid out a plan that he had developed without the involvement of any of the advisors. And it was life-changing for our chapter. He had taken ownership of our candidate education program and changed it from a demand intimidation-based program to a team-building program utilizing retreats and experiential involvement of the candidate class. And I said, "Patrick, you realize that what you're doing is exactly what I've been asking the chapter to do for the last 10 years in the LEAD program." He said, "I didn't realize that was LEAD." And I said, "That's exactly LEAD." So from that time forward, our candidate program was totally revamped by someone that really came to it with an experience base from outside of the fraternity. He used his skills as a leader from his soccer experience and brought that to the table. That sounds pretty simplistic, I know. But if officers take their roles and bring their A game to that position, that's how chapters are forever changed for the better. And it did involve the commander, and it did involve the advisory board. It involved a brother that had skills, that wanted it, and brought their A game. And I'm forever thankful, because it totally changed for the next 10 years so far, the chapter's candidate education program, which literally sets the tone for the rest of the experience of excellence in the chapter. Don't be afraid to have standards of excellence in everything you do. And I'm going to use an example here that will probably get me in a little bit of trouble, but I think you will have a hard time arguing with what I'm going to say. And I use this example a lot in our chapter, and that's the example of the Duke basketball program. Think about that a minute. When you think of Duke basketball, and I'm not a fan, I'm sure the Gamma chapter commander will like me after this, but think about that. Year in and year out, they're always in the top rankings. They always produce outstanding student athletes. And some people say, "Oh, that's Coach K," and all. That's part of the culture. But I use that at my chapter, a culture of 7 Rock chapters, to say, when you achieve a culture of excellence, recruitment is easy, because everybody wants you and you want only the best. So you have it your way, that way. But that's only achieved when you go about everything with high standards. And you can never compromise your standards in a culture of excellence. Do you recruit with excellence in mind? Where is the recruit academically? What does he bring to the table? I mean, we get it all the time. "Well, I want the cool guy." I want the cool guy too, but I want the cool guy that makes grades, has values, and brings something more than just an enhancement of the social program. Stand for love, honor, and truth, and show it. The LEAD program is there to do just that. It will help you if you embrace it. In this day and time, the top recruits and their parents, and you're going to hear me say, and their parents, a lot, because in this day and time, the parents have, in your lives, have far more involvement than they had in our lives. But they're a part of the decision-making that goes on in what their kids and sons are going to be doing. And I got to stop here and get a little bit up on a soapbox. If we don't do a better job of living love, honor, and truth, and if the other fraternities that we rub shoulders with on our campus don't do a better job of living their values, fraternities as we know it today may not be around in a few years. College presidents are not buying into it unless we start demanding and experiencing and demonstrating our values. Insurance companies are saying, we're not going to take the risk. Law enforcement officers are saying, we're going to hold you accountable to your actions. All of those are players in our existence, like it or not. My challenge to you tonight is to understand in Sigma Nu and demonstrate in Sigma Nu that men will be men. Down the street, boys may be boys, but in Sigma Nu, men will be men. Jealously guard your chapter's reputation. And this is a tough one. You guys have it far harder than we ever dreamed in my generation, primarily because of social media. You live in a world of social media deluge, and your reputation is at risk at every second. Let me give you two examples from my own campus. One is a positive and one is a negative. And fortunately, Sigma Nu is involved in the positive one. As a result of a message, social media message, Kevin Durant, lo and behold, shows up to play intramural football at the chapter at Oklahoma State, and it went viral, or whatever term you guys use. By the time I got to my office the next morning, I had 150 messages from a lot of you guys saying, how did you pull that off? I said, that's just the way it rolls, I guess, within these guys' culture. That was a positive. Kevin Durant, number 35, with the Sigma Nu jersey, was plastered everywhere. Jim Rome had it all over his show. I mean, this went crazy. We were fortunate. We were lucky. That all went our way. Not 6 months later, I walked into my office and had an email from the director of Greek life at Oklahoma State University that said, and it went to all of us that are leaders in the Greek world at Oklahoma State, says, gentlemen, this is problematic for all of us. And I said, I wonder what this is all about. I looked and I had a bunch of messages coming in. There was a YouTube video that had just broken where some group had decided to come to campus and determine which is the greatest party school on campus, or party organization on campus. And fortunately, they got a buyer down the street. I viewed this video and I said, oh my gosh, because I have a lot of friends that are in that fraternity alumni corps. Plastered all over the jerseys of all of these young men was their letters. And it was atrocious. It was unbelievable chugging and girls. But let me tell you, it was interesting. Not one of the girls in the video had their letters on, but all of the guys in the video had their letters on. And it sent shockwaves through our campus. I had 5 calls the next morning from people that I know that have sons that will be going to school there in the next fall. You think that doesn't set a tone for Rush for that chapter? And all it was I'm sure that someone determined that they wanted to have a little fun. Now, Joe, why do you bring up that? You need to start thinking about that. How are you going to manage that kind of an outcome if that hits you? First thing I want you to ask is my chapter capable of doing that without me knowing it? That's for you to answer. But I promise you that we're at risk at every moment with our reputation. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. Jealously guard your chapter's reputation because our livelihood is at risk. The next challenge is a challenge coined by my fellow chapter advisor, Neil Gilpin. And so I can't take credit for it, but I'm going to use it. And I asked Neil's permission this afternoon if I could use it. And here was his response. I want royalties, and you may contact my lawyer. And I'm telling you, Neil, right now, I am your lawyer, and you're not getting any royalties. Here's the challenge. Constantly reevaluate everything you're doing. You can get stuck doing the same thing over and over because it worked great last year. Look at all the little things you do, not just the big things. But in everything, ask the following question. What's the point? Why are we doing this? And most importantly, does it still accomplish what we thought it would? This is how you begin to establish your own strategic plans for your chapter, and you evaluate your successes and failures. This is how you raise your performance bar and sustain excellence. The next challenge, you should embrace your alumni. Embrace us as a major tool of your march toward excellence. Involve us in your lead program. Involve us in your recruitment, because our best chapters have an involved core of alumni that jealously guard the brotherhood of the chapter. That's a valuable asset. And finally, and Joe Gilman, this is for you. Never, ever abandon or ignore ritual. Ritual is one of the most important things that we do. Regent Joe Gilman established a practice that the High Council uses ritual for our meetings when we gather. Why is this important? Ritual returns us to our focus on love, honor, and truth. Ritual demands and deserves our respect. Show me a chapter that is casual about ritual, and I will show you a chapter that lacks internal discipline. When your chapter meetings and ceremonies begin and end with ritual, the business that takes place in between takes on a different level of importance, demeanor, dignity, and brotherly regard. When you're encountering your chapter's greatest struggles and greatest accomplishments, return to the ritual to restore and affirm your chapter's moral compass. That's it for the challenges. I know you guys are glad about that. And you may be saying, whoa, Joe, that was not much of a rah-rah speech. I'll save my rah-rah speech for grand chapter. But when it comes to college of chapters, you get my get her done speech. In 1997, our chapter experienced probably it's one of its darkest moments. We had to significantly sanction about 20 of our brothers for conduct that I would characterize as, I can do what I damn well please. Not when you wear our letters and our badge can you do what you damn well please. I point blank looked eyeball to eyeball at the new commander that took over during that time period, and I said, Scott, are my expectations too high? And he said, and this forever changed my approach to everything I do in Sigma Nu, he said, your expectations are probably too high, but do not ever compromise your expectations for this chapter. And I have not, and I will not, and that's what I bring to you as a member of the High Council. I commit to bringing you my A game every time I work on your behalf. And that's what I expect of you. And if each and every one of us brings it and brings our A game throughout these next few days, then each of us will walk out of here on Sunday morning knowing that iron has sharpened iron, and our fraternity will be better for it. Thank you.